You can't be a successful businessman if you can't control money. In business, you either grow or you die. There's no remaining static.
The statement you made is have a seat at the table.
The more you grow, the more you invest, the more the system, the country reckons with you, and then the more they begin to engage with you. There's so much information out there, but how do you interpret it? But most importantly, are you acting on it? I started Rainoil with 300,000 naira that took me 2 years to put together. I needed to protect it as if my life depended on it. You need scale to be recognized, and you can't build that scale if you don't invest.
How did you become this big? Rainoil, everybody knows Rainoil. Gabriel, thank you very much for coming to the Ausso Leadership Academy as a champion. Our champions are Nigerians of proven integrity and proven track record. Your share in class was very interesting and inspiring. Please tell us about yourself and your company.
Okay, my name is Gabriel Ogbechie. I'm the Group Managing Director of Rainoil Limited. Rainoil Limited is a company that largely plays in the downstream sector of the Nigeria oil and gas sector. We've been in existence now for 29 years and counting. As of today, Rainoil, we have more than 200 petrol stations spread across the country. We own 3 oil terminals, 50 million liter capacity each, one in Okere in Delta State, one in Calabar in Cross River State. We own yet another one in Ijegun in Lagos State. We're also heavily into liquefied petroleum gas. We have an 8,000 metric ton capacity storage facility also in Ijegun in Lagos State. We are heavily into logistics as well. We have a fleet of more than 450 trucks with which we distribute petroleum products across the country. We're also into shipping. We own a 45,000 tonner deadweight vessel with which we import petroleum products into this country. And then as of today, we have a staff strength of more than 3,000 people working for us. So that's Rainoil in a nutshell.
That's a very big nutshell. So, Gabriel, this is quite a personal question.
Yes.
It's a common held view that many Nigerian big men, when they're successful, they just tell their success story. And you ask them what is the source and the root of their success, they'll just say, oh, now God, oh, there is no trace back. How did you become this big? Rainoil, everybody knows Rainoil.
Well, we have a history actually. I worked for an oil and gas company for 5 years called Ascon Oil Company Limited. I was with Ascon Oil from 1992 to 1997. Rainoil is a company that we started from the scratch, from ground zero. It was a vision I got when I was in paid employment between 92 and 95. And what propelled me was very simple. I just needed something that could replace my salary. I just felt that if I could start something that could at least give me returns equivalent to what my salary then was, that I'll be able to thrive and succeed. So I kept it very simple. To be honest, I didn't see this far. I didn't even look this far. So I started from very humble beginnings. In 1997, when I left Ascon Oil to face Rainoil squarely. So Rainoil is a company we've built brick by brick, block by block, from leasing the first petrol station in Ikpetu Ijesha in 1997 to building our first petrol station in Ibudo in 1999 to buying the next petrol station in Agege in 2001 to buying the second petrol station in Ipaja, Lagos in 2001 too, to building our first depot in Okere in 2011, to building our second depot in Calabar in 2015, to building our third depot in Ijegun in Lagos in 2019. It's a company that we have built brick by brick systematically. When I'm discussing with my staff, I tell them that today we have more than 200 petrol stations. At no point in time did we go to the market and then just buy 10 petrol stations at a go. We built it one after the other, step by step. We have 450 trucks today. When I look at it, I say, how did we even get here? The very first truck we got was a joint venture between a friend of mine who brought a tractor, and myself who bought a tank, and then we coupled it to get a truck. That was our first truck. Today we have 450 of them. Rainoil is a company that has history, and is a history which we can tell, and we never shy away from telling our story.
A very rich history indeed. When you were mentioning all these names, Gabriel, you remember when you built your first station.
Yes,
I noticed that it was not in Lagos. So a lot of people struggle to make it starting from Lagos. But what you did was you went where you could maximize your money. What advice do you have for people that are just stuck on Lagos?
You have to be strategic, and then you have to be realistic. You have to be realistic because I started Rainoil with 300,000 naira that took me 2 years to put together. So having gotten that money, I needed to protect it as if my life depended on it. So I couldn't fritter it away. I had to go to a place where I needed a petrol station, but it had to be a petrol station I could afford. And with 300,000, there wasn't much I could do in Lagos because I couldn't spend the 300,000 naira on a petrol station because that was my working capital. So it was the delta which I had been able to make on top of the 300,000 that I was ready to spend. So I went to Ikpetu Ijesha because that was where I could get a petrol station to lease for 50,000 naira per annum. And I had to pay for 5 years, 250,000. That was what I could afford. So starting outside Lagos was strategic, was also being realistic. I wasn't building a castle in the sky. I went there, started from there, then went to Ibodo where I would buy land for 120,000 and build a petrol station. Then when we could now afford the price of Lagos, then we came to Lagos in 2001 and got our first petrol station in Lagos.
Having made it in retail, you were still not satisfied. What you said in class is claw your way out of the bottom of the pyramid. Why that?
Well, because again, the bottom of the pyramid is crowded. You know, in business, you either grow or you die. There's no remaining static. You either grow or you die. So we got a first petrol station, then the second, then the third. And you know, Nigeria is a huge country. Like I said, I was in Ife about 2 weeks ago. I mean, just driving around the town, I told myself, why don't you have a petrol station in this town? And then we're in the process of getting one there. Why don't you have a petrol station in Osogbo? So there are so many opportunities in the country that we've not really scratched it. People may look at us and say, oh, you have more than 200 petrol stations. That's a lot. But I say, for the opportunities we have in this country, there's still so much room to invest. I will never stop investing.
But haven't had all these retail points, trucks, you were still not satisfied. The statement you made is have a seat at the table. Can you expatiate on that?
The more you grow, the more you invest, the more the system, the country reckons with you, and then the more they begin to engage with you. You need scale to be recognized. You need scale to have a say where it matters. And you can't build that scale if you don't invest. In the days when most of the products we used to sell in this country used to come from NNPC. And NNPC say, if you don't have 100 petrol stations, we can't recognize you as a major marketer, and then you can't have access to credit. So you need to have 100 petrol stations to be able to access NNPC credit. There's gain in scale. I mean, if all you have is petrol station, and if you're dealing with just petrol station, then you deal with products in trucks. But if you build a depot, then you can begin to deal with petroleum products in shipload. That's scale. So if you really want to grow and be reckoned with and have scale, then you need to invest. So that's something we never stop doing.
Gabriel, your mindset about money is different from a lot of people. People make money and they want to be felt. So sometimes they are spending out of cash flow, sometimes it's debt or leverage. Can you share a little bit of your mindset about money? I found it very interesting.
Well, you must be able to see money and keep your cool. You must be able to control money. You can't be a successful businessman if you can't control money. One of the things we did from our early days is on a monthly basis, at the end of every month, I keep records of what my working capital position is. And my working capital position is to say, can we forget about fixed assets, assets of petrol stations, assets of depot, assets of trucks, and just deal with liquidity. How much cash do we have? How much stock do we have? Who is owing us? Who are we owing? How much are we owing a bank? And if all the banks we are owing come to us now and say, pay us, are we in a position to pay? Because that for me is very, very important. We must be able to meet our obligations as at when due. Because again, Nigeria is a very peculiar country. In a country where interest rates hover around 30%, there are very few projects you can do, capital projects you can do with debt and be able to pay. So it's important that in economies like this, that people as much as possible keep their borrowings at the short end of the stick, which is for working capital. Buy fuel, sell fuel, take it back to the bank. And don't take debt to go and build a depot or to go and build a petrol station, and stuff like that. So that's one of the things that have kept us, which is why in 29 years of running Rainoil, we've not been to AMCON. No bank has written off a bad debt on our account. No bank, we've never had a debt we've not been able to service or been able to pay. And, it helps us sleep with our two eyes closed.
Gabriel, one of the things that I find that is unique about you is your passion about execution. In fact, if I remember your quote correctly, you said a badly made plan but perfectly executed is better than a perfect plan not executed. Tell us your mindset about it.
Well, strategy is all about execution. Like I said, a mediocre strategy excellently executed is better than an excellent strategy poorly executed. So you need to have a strategy. And then again, we've run Rainoil now for 29 years. The way we did business 29 years ago is not the way it happened 20 years ago. It's not the way it happened 15 years ago. It's not the way it happened 5 years ago. It's not the way it's happening now. And it's not the way it's going to happen 10 years from today. So disruption will happen. The business landscape will change. But for you to be able to survive, you need to have a strategy, and then you have to execute that strategy with a single-minded approach. I remember in my early days in the industry, our mainstay was a product called LPFO, low poor fuel oil. In the early 2000s, LPFO accounted for about 60% of our revenue. I remember I was driving on Obakran one day in Ikeja, and I saw that they had dug up the side of the road and laid pipes on them. And then I called my team and I said, what are those pipes for? He said the pipes are for gas. What are they going to do with the gas? He said they are piping gas to industrial companies. They are going to use the gas to fire their boilers. So I said, that means nobody's going to buy our LPFO. So immediately I called my guys and I said, look, we need to start going into retail. 20 years ago, LPFO accounted for maybe 60% of our revenue. In the last 10 years, LPFO has accounted for 0% of our revenue, even though our revenue has grown in leaps and bounds. So don't question change, just adapt to it. Don't question change. There's this book I always talk about. It's Who Moved My Cheese?
Yeah.
It's a classic book in change management. Change will come. Don't question it. Just adapt to it and move on. So there's been so many changes between then and now. One of the reasons why we've survived is that we've always adapted to those changes rather than trying to question the changes.
And I would ask this question on behalf of the audience because somebody asked it in class. How did you come to trust your gut instinct so much?
After 34 years in downstream, some things become common sense, but it's actually not common. It's something that has come with experience. It's something that has come with doing. It's something that has come with reading, has come with knowledge. I wake up every day before I leave my house. I ensure that I read all the national papers. So I try to stay well informed. And then one thing is, a lot of people will read the same thing, but give it completely different interpretation. There's so much information out there. The information is hiding in plain sight. Everybody is saying it. But how do you interpret it? But most importantly, are you acting on it? So a lot of people get information, they say they will act on it, but not everybody actually take the step to now go ahead and act on it. With the benefit of hindsight, everybody is wise. But the important thing is the benefit of foresight. This is 2026. Where will this economy be in 2028? What are the things we should do now to take advantage of what is going to happen in 2028? That is where the wisdom comes in. Because by 2028, it would have happened. The stock market has been on steroids in the last 1 year. Some people saw it and took a position. Some people saw it but only analyzed it. Today, most of the stocks have gone up threefold. People are saying, I wish I went in. But it was there. People could have gone in. So at the end of the day, you have to decide what you want to do, trust your instinct, but most importantly, go ahead and act on it.
And you've acted on so many things. People know you as Gabriel, Rainoil, Oil and Gas. I learned something today. You are much more than that. It seems as if your holding in farms is bigger than many big farmers.
Well, beyond oil and gas, we're also heavily into agriculture. We have a 3,000 hectare palm plantation in Delta State. So we have 3,000 hectares of palm that is flourishing. We have a 10-ton per hour palm oil mill also in Delta State. It's something which we are very, very passionate about because we need to feed ourselves. Palm is a low-hanging fruit. The only thing is that you need patient capital, but it's a very, very good investment. If you look at the companies that are quoted in the stock exchange that are into palm, if you look at Okomu, if you look at Presco, they are doing excellently well. And we are trying to toe their line. So we are also expanding our plantation, looking for additional land to plant additional palm because ultimately, I believe that you can't go wrong with food.
Cannot go wrong with food. There is a book you talked about which every entrepreneur must read. And I would like you to share it with our audience, maybe to help them.
Well, one book I've read that has a lot of impact on me is Shoe Dog by Phil Knight. It's the book that talks about how Phil Knight started Nike, the shoe company, with $500, which his father gave to him. The last time I checked, Phil Knight was worth about $26 billion and counting. That book is a classic book on entrepreneurship. It teaches you everything, starting the business, running the business, finance, strategy, treachery, betrayal, everything. It's got everything. It's such a very wonderful read. And it's a book I'll recommend to everyone who is interested in reading books.
So Gabriel, every one of our cohorts has a champion. Cohort 11 is where you spoke and inspired them, so you are the champion of cohort 11.
Thank you.
What would you say was your experience in the class sharing today?
A very interesting experience. The first thing I love about the class is the intimacy. It's a classroom, so you can look into the eyes of everyone. You can connect with them. So, which was why it was easier for me to pour out my heart, because I was talking to people who, I could easily relate with. And the attention was rapt, and I really hope they got a lot of value.
They indeed got a lot of value. My last question, your impression about the Ausso Leadership Academy. You are now a part of the ecosystem.
The Ausso Leadership Academy it's awesome, it's great. I'm really very proud of what you're doing here. You're somebody who I admire and I respect a lot. I'm privileged to sit in a particular board with you, so I've been able to hear you out, hear your engagements. I follow you very actively on social media. I read your posts. So I love your train of thoughts. And I know too well that anybody who walks through this Ausso Leadership Academy sure gets a lot of value. It's a privilege to listen to you teach. It's a privilege to listen to you talk. And I would recommend the Ausso Leadership Academy to everyone who wants to learn on leadership. There's so much value to be gotten here.
Gabriel, thank you very much for coming and for pouring your heart out and for all that you do.
Thank
it's
you.
a pleasure having you.
Thank you.
Honor.
Thank you.